This video is going to be a film study look at how the Baltimore Ravens offense took over on Monday Night Football after falling behind 10-0. We're going to focus on the second and third possession here in the midst of the Ravens' first 16 offensive plays spanning their first, second, and third possessions. In fact, 9 of our first 16 plays went for 9 yards or more. And in fact, there's a 10th play there that was an 8-yard touchdown run by Lamar that at this point I've seen the film, should not have been called a hold in my opinion. Falele probably doesn't need to extend his arms as much as he does. But the point is the Ravens took over and really exploited a Bucs defense that just would not stop blitzing and putting themselves out of position. Second possession for the Ravens, 6 plays, 70 yards, touchdown. Third possession, 4 plays, 80 yards, touchdown. In fact, we scored twice on that possession on a night when they put up 508 total yards of offense, 9.4 yards per play. It's really ridiculous, the numbers, when you think about Lamar going 17 of 22 passing for 5 touchdown passes, and we run for 244 on the same night. Henry, 15 carries, 169. Bucs really had no answer. Let's get to the film. And I think it's interesting, there's the multitude of formations that are used, the multitude of sets, if you will, that are used, and how many players have a role in this offense on a particular drive or particular possession. So we are late first quarter. The Bucs are up 10-0 at this point. And it's going to be a play action to the backside of Twins. I love it. It's out of 22 personnel. So we've got 2 tight ends on the field in the form of Kolar and Likely. We're oftentimes running to this side. And now each week, Monken is revealing a new play out of each particular formation. We're faking the run concept down here to Derrick Henry. And Kolar, you can see, is over the top of the boundary side outside linebacker, 9. Who oftentimes drops into the flats. The corner is getting some depth. Really nice design and great touch by Lamar, dropping it over. Reaction video, it's 21 personnel. So you got Ricard and Kolar up to the top. The jet action to the tight end wing side. That's a tight end and a wing there with the dive off of it. One of my favorite things, one of my favorite concepts we're using. I did a video about a week and a half ago on it. You can see the space that is afforded, number one. Number two, you can see the opportunity to close off the backside inside linebacker, close off the backside, seeing the face or trying to cross face of an edge defender. So the Bucs have the strong safety rolled up to the bunch side because they're in their base defense. Base defense meaning their 3-4 look. You can see their 5-man line, 2 inside linebackers, strong safety in the case of Winfield rolled up to the boundary. So second man through concept is motion by Wallace and then Likely going on the same path to that side. Now, in fact, I don't think that this is really an RPO because these guys are all pass setting, but it's designed to look like an RPO. And in fact, we ran RPO later on in this quarter from the same formation. This particular defensive end, I think it's Hall, kind of flashes in front of Likely's face. Maybe we should train Likely, if someone shows up in your grill, go ahead and block him. Because Henry crosses Lamar's face, 90 just goes upfield, and 9, the outside linebacker who nearly tipped the pass to Kolar in the flats on the first play of the second possession, kind of starts to widen up with Likely. Lamar just makes, like I said, 9 of our first 16 plays go for 9 yards or more. Transitioning to another 12 personnel formation and an actual RPO, in my opinion, 7-yard gain for Henry on a give. So motion across, instead of him being the first guy through with the motion and then Likely being the second guy through on the previous play I showed you, Likely's already lined up there. So we are now looking to possibly get the ball to him. Lamar with a read. You can see that we're pulling the tackle on a wrap. Linderbaum has already pulled and also had a sack. So going off of some of the same things that we've done, the busted play, Lamar scrambles for 11 with motion left to right. Then the give to Derrick Henry on what I believe was a potential RPO. And now we've got still 12 personnel, slightly different formation in that we've widened Likely up. So 2 plays ago, Likely was here, pre-snap, slid out into the flats. 1 play ago, Likely was here, pre-snap, and then it was the give to Henry, the run concept. But Likely was running out into the flats. Now we've basically accomplished the same task with Tylan Wallace going in motion out into the flats and Likely sitting on the snag concept with a potential run look to the downside of our screen and Andrews blocking. So our RPOs were a little bit more successful than I thought. talking about in the reaction video, there were 2 other times in the game where I thought the Bucs did a nice job defending them, very similar to the one that they defended with Logan Hall forcing Lamar to scramble. But you get the idea. Building off of previous plays, Lamar, I think, is throwing likely upfield to get him away from that defender. Lamar, extremely quick processing here. Inside linebacker to that side is coming downhill. And so Lamar reads the leverage of this defender. I think he's trying to throw likely upfield a little bit more, let him catch it and get upfield because there is open space there. Likely had settled down. He doesn't know that. The moment when the Ravens really took over, hurry up here, 12 personnel still. And the Bucs, interestingly, decide to bring the boundary side inside linebacker on a blitz and drop essentially 2 guys into the same spot. I think this is supposed to be their version of red zone cover 3. Outside linebacker is pushing out here along with, I think, Whitehead, their safety. Andrews wide open on the right hash, just outside of the right hash. I think maybe based on the reaction here and here that it was Whitehead. It kind of doesn't surprise me because I saw him get himself out of position down to Andrews. And it didn't get any better for the Bucs on the 3rd possession. It really, I think, was obvious after this possession that they couldn't match up with our speed, our ability to execute, and how many weapons we have. Every team in the NFL doesn't have this. We're very blessed. It almost, at this point, reminds me of how blessed we were last year defensively, that pretty much everyone that got in the game, especially from a defensive back standpoint, played at their highest potential. This offense has got the same dynamic this year. They've walked him up to the field. So normally this will be the read man. If you acted like Winfield isn't there, you can catch a little bit of his body on the left-hand side here. Normally this will be the read man, and we release up to the second level. In this case, we're deciding to go ahead and block him, and 43 works himself down. So Rosengarten just tries to take him this way as much as possible. And then Winfield becomes the read man. Pretty simple option football. You can see Lamar looking right at him. Rosengarten takes 43 where he wants to go. 43 understands that he's got Winfield outside of him from an alignment standpoint than my perception is allowing me to think. 43 is rushing off the edge. Pay attention to Whitehead here again. And I think Lamar throws this ball exactly where he wants to. Whitehead, knows it's a blitz, so that's why he's dropping down. But in terms of the way the play works out with Bateman going vertical up the seam outside of Winfield, I mean, he's wide ass open. But with the pressure, Lamar recognizes that when he's trying to throw this football, you can even see him wave a moment ago. I'll run it back in a moment so you can see it. Lamar waves him back. So he intentionally throws this ball where it ends up held. Let's just do it now. So I'll let it click forward 2 or 3 times so you can see Lamar wave. And I think he's telling Bateman to come back to the ball underneath because he understands, Lamar understands McCollum and Whitehead are going to be in recovery mode, trying to get depth as much as possible down to beat McCollum and Winfield up the right side. This is not a hold, in my opinion. But Falele on the pole, you would say, hey, maybe if you don't extend your arms a little bit or you don't grab at all, you're not going to get called for it. We know we got man, so the Bucs, have subtracted 1 from the boundary. This is stealing. Quarterback down flag on Falele. I don't know how they're not calling this on Whitehead. I didn't think you were allowed to do this anymore. First of all, I think this is basic football. I don't think it should be disallowed. But to my knowledge, going low on a pulling offensive lineman like that is disallowed at this point. But in any case, you get a great view of it. You also get a great view of Andrews' pin down block on Diaby. Pulling. Linderbaum's the guy that gets root hogged. Down low. They're calling it here on Falele. Not a slight grab there. They obviously don't call it. So if you want to take extreme ownership for your actions and your Falele, call a hold versus what is allowed. How do I say this? Oftentimes on the other side by their offensive line, try to be as delicate as possible. 6 or 8 times last night, I'm watching their offensive line pass block, and I'm like, I don't see 1 hold. I see 2 or 3. It ended up not mattering in the context of this possession because the very next play, after the hold on Falele, because I don't understand why you vacate so much space and basically give they're basically playing their bracket on two. And if let's say two was to go out, they're going to try to run out. That's why these guys' backs are turned, these two inside linebackers. They're going to try to handle those guys on out concepts or wall them off from running to the inside. So if Andrews was to run in here, then Levante David would try to wall them off. Simultaneous to that, if one runs a vertical, they're going to try to get a bracket on these guys. It's a coverage that I previewed often. And when we're behind the sticks, second and goal from the 18, to get a screen to go for, well, Justice Hill has unique burst, and he's got great ability to set up his blocks downfield. Perfect usage of one of our players, if you ask me. This cut here is fantastic. Really, for all intents and purposes, the competition between our offense and their defense was over. And you saw that kind of bear out the rest of the game. The Bucs were fortunate that our defense stinks right now. And I guess they could say the same thing, that their defense didn't play well. I think if we play them 4 times over the course of a season, or 3 times, that we put up 30, 35 plus points at minimum pretty much every time we play them. Too many weapons, too many concepts being executed. I formation, single back with the jet dive action, RPOs out of the gun, option reads out of a typical shotgun. Pistol outside zone stuff wasn't a big fan of last night, to be honest with you. Screen game working no matter who we throw the football to. It's really ridiculous what's happening with this Ravens offense. If you've been a longtime Ravens fan, let me know what other offenses you can recall that had this type of potential. I'm not talking about statistical designation, scoring more points per game, more yards per game, our yards per play. Here's the crazy thing. I think 3 weeks ago we were averaging 6.6 yards per play. And I remember doing a preview video and saying, I don't know if that's sustainable, something like along those lines. And then we go crazy offensively against the Bengals, and we go to 6.8 yards per play. And I remember thinking, okay, this is the ceiling, this is the cap. It can't get any better than this. We can't be any more explosive. And we play Washington, and it pushes our season-long yards per play to 6.9. And then we roll into Tampa Bay on a Monday night. Granted, we have our whole offense healthy, with other than Zay Flowers getting a little nick early in the game on that jet sweep. And we put up 9.4 yards per game. My guess is we're now above 7 yards per play. I don't know where that stands historically. I can't imagine there are many other teams above us. Maybe the Patriots in 2007. Maybe the Rams in 2001, I guess the first year that they made the Super Bowl when they won it. Kurt Warner's first year as a starter. The Vikings in 98, 99 with Culpepper, Moss, and Chris Carter. Other than that, I can't think of any other team that maybe would have been above that barrier or even approached it. It is truly insane from a statistical standpoint that at one point we're averaging 6.6 yards per play, and we increase it. Do you know how difficult that is to do statistically once you've played 3, 4, 5 football games? And we bump it up to 6.8, and then we bump it up to 6.9. It had to have increased, I don't know by how much, after last night's win over the Bucs. A really ridiculous performance. I intend to do a film study video on Rashad Bateman sometime today. The defense has to be addressed. I watched it through without making any notes this morning just to watch it, and I was no less perturbed or incensed than I was watching it live. It can't be fun. In the Discord that I operate for Ravens fans, it can't be fun to listen to me rant about our defense. But then simultaneously, 3 or 4 minutes later, we've scored again. So the up and down nature, the chaotic flow of a game with this Ravens team in 2024 is very unique, I think, among Ravens fans. Let me know what seasons you remember where, A, we may have had an offense with anything approaching this type of potential from a personnel standpoint. Yes, 2019 was historic, don't get me wrong. But from a talent standpoint, across the board, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, and clearly quarterback, I don't think 2019 approaches this group at all in terms of what we're capable of. I think we've got starters at third-string tight end. We got starters at fullback, Pat Ricard, that I think could go to other teams in the NFL and transform their offense quickly. And we've got guys at receiver in Aguilar and Tylan Wallace who can play and have made plays, in fact, that just don't get on the field a whole lot because of how often we use 12 personnel, 21, and 22. Appreciate you guys' time. Forgive the little digression at the end there talking about statistics and our Discord, but it is simultaneously fun to participate in the Discord and also maddening to sit there virtually together and comment on the game constantly when our defense is playing as poor as it is. Nonetheless, it was fun to watch the offense put up 41 points, essentially stop playing football with maybe 6.5, 7 minutes left in the game because we understood the dynamic and how we were going to walk out of there with a win pretty much regardless of what happened the rest of the way. Appreciate you guys' time. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section. Likes and comments always drive the content to be pushed out to a larger audience and helps me justify the time spent to produce these videos. If you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comment section. And also, please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media so other Ravens fans can enjoy it as well.